Onegashimasu. Good afternoon, Recipe Mains here once again. Before we dive into the technical aspects of this video, I'd like to thank everybody for their comments, both positive and otherwise, on the videos we've been posting to our various Facebook group pages and our YouTube channel. Originally, these videos were intended for our direct students to aid and assist them in their trainings from home during this coronavirus environment. What we didn't expect was such a wide and positive response from the general martial arts public that have been viewing these. So for that, we thank you. Now, the next three videos, we're going to dive into our base curriculum, the whys, whats, and hows. It's what I truly believe is a true martial science program, in the sense that we look and scrutinize every piece of what we're doing, and we prove it along the way. We challenge it, we question it. If it works, we continue doing it. If something doesn't work, then we go back and we figure out why. Most karate-based systems, Chinese systems, are based on three areas of training: your kata, your forms, your sparring and your sparring and kumite, and your tuide, or your grappling. Within most systems, they're taught very distinctly, in that the stances and positions of my hand and how I move from my kata is very, very different than I would from my freestyle sparring. And then add that to my grappling, and that divide gets a little bit wider and wider each and every time. So for most schools, and for us coming up especially, as a highly competitive school, we did kata for two reasons. We either did it for kata competition, or we did it because we had to learn it for promotion. Other than that, it took a back seat because it wasn't really viewed as effective. And the same kind of applied to our grappling. For us, we did Hapkido and Kuso, a little bit of judo, but it wasn't still viewed as effective as my sparring, because I could easily the idea was I could knock somebody out with a punch, where here I'd have to fight somebody on the ground standing up. So we had to develop a system where everything had to match. Why was it taught differently? It's supposed to be self-defense. It's supposed to be natural. The motto of our school is a school and style built for purpose. A school and style built on a purpose. Everything has to have intent. So we don't just do a punch to do a punch. We look at this punch and what part of those punches, how can we use it? How does that benefit the body? How is that going to increase my range of motion, my flexibility, my strength, my posturing? How is it going to benefit me beyond just that learning a simple technique? Our teachings and practices are designed around two main ideas: prevention and application. I realized early on that the gist of our training was kind of preparatory in nature, meaning that you learn basics so that you can learn a kata. You learn certain kicks, learn certain punches, so that you can begin doing sparring. Then you learn certain movements. So everything was intended to help you with something else. But that single motion didn't provide much benefit beyond that. And again, in my mind, every aspect of the training student must have the ability to be interchangeable and applicable without alteration. Okay? And I've kind of called that, those are our connective applications. What I do in my kata, I should be able to do in my kumite, I should be able to do in my tuide. If it's not, then there's something wrong. So again, we have connective application and our application. Additionally, very little attention was given to what I call preventive training. So as an instructor, an advanced practitioner, most of us know that when a new student walks on the floor, they're going to make certain mistakes. Elbows are going to roll out when they're punched, they're going to roll the shoulders, stances are going to be too wide, too long. All of these things are common for beginners. So my intent is we want to engineer those problems out at the earliest possible moment. So if you think of a student taking a driving course, before they ever get in the car, they have to sit in a class, listen to an instructor, take a test on what the rules and regulations of driving that are going to protect the person driving and the people on the road around them. And that's before they ever get into that car. So they already have an idea of the intent other than just getting there. So we do the same thing here. We have the same level and measure of understanding in protecting ourselves and not just hurting other people. It is with this intent that we designed our curriculum and supporting syllabus. Each technique and exercise is taught within the first year has this specific intent beyond just teaching a punch, a kick, or a block. Preventive teach training provides the student and the teacher alike with the means to recognize common issues and errors and engineer them out again, like I said, at the earliest possible time. Why wait until a year later when they're a green belt to teach them to keep from rolling out their elbows? Let's get it out of the way right now. So number one, everything is taught on a count level. We break everything down. That's how we teach kata. We start from here, we step. That's step number one. 2, we turn. 3, we block. Step, we touch. And so on and so on. So we take the same idea and apply it to the single technique. So we break down not just the kata, but we break down each technique. We want to understand it. We want to look at the single motion and the coordinated movement of that. Each part of a technique of motion is tested and proven in the sense that if I'm going to do a punch, somebody's going to grab me. We're going to learn why you do what you do and what happens if you don't do it right. This type of practice provides the student with a checklist, okay, that allows them to self-evaluate and actually self-correct themselves. I tell my students all the time, my job is not to teach them. Yes, it is, but my job is really to teach them how to teach themselves. That's the true nature of what we're intended to do. That's what colleges are there for. That's what schools are there for. It's to teach you how to figure out how to fix it yourself. Teach you how to proofread. Show your work. This, to me, is the true definition of bunkai. Bunkai is not the application of a technique out of a kata in a self-defense situation. It is exactly what it is. It's dissect and analyze. So that means if I do this punch, I have to dissect and analyze each part of it to make sure that each part of that is going to be effective and proper. And within that, we give the area for each belt level, each technique, we give the student at least 3 areas of focus. So for the beginners, we always focus, say for punching, kata or sparring, is one we always protect that center line. So we protect it, and that's our home base. Everything always comes towards center line. Secondly, we always look at this rubbing, keeping the elbows in tight. So if I'm punching here, the elbows in tight, elbows in tight. Okay, and then hand positioning. And there's other ones, but those are the 3 basic ones. So they always know that when they're practicing, what are the 3 areas I'm focused on? If I'm working on stances, it's length, width, and foot position. If it's kicking, it's knee and foot position and body alignment, supporting leg. And additionally, every single class, we always reinforce the 5 combative postures. Your body alignment, your distancing, your footwork, your timing, and your placement of technique and targeting. These are what we defined again. All of this is our essential beginnings. This type of technical scrutiny will become the backbone of more advanced martial arts training, specifically the concept I've identified as, I call it body mapping. So that I know that if most people, if they're going to punch, the elbow rolls out or it comes back, they pull it back, the shoulder's going to pull up, I already know where the weaknesses are in the body. So that's going to give me the benefit of knowing what the attacker is going to do before he ever does it. So I know that if we're standing here and you start to move forward, I already know where those weaknesses. So again, I've identified that as body mapping. So what we're going to do is we're going to focus on 3 things. 3 ways to do a punch. And again, this is the basis for every single block and hand technique that we're going to do. So again, as we start out, you have to have a partner. So the first thing we teach our students is, why do we place our hand here and not lower like you see in other systems? And the easy way to figure this out and prove it to yourself is get with a partner. You could be a child, your mother, your sister, it doesn't really matter. Start by putting your hand here or lower. And hold it next to your body. Have them put your hand on the shoulder and try to pull your hand away. And they'll pull it away. Unless you're Arnold Schwarzenegger, you won't be able to do that. Now, place the arm up higher, put the elbow in this position, hold it tight to your body, their hand goes against your shoulder and try to pull it away, and it'll be next to impossible. They may pull you, they won't pull your hand. So that, instead of me just telling my students, make sure your hand is here, now they understand why. So the first thing, and my kids class, I call this magic hand. So they're doing their kata, there's something wrong with the hand, I say magic hand, they know how to fix it. Maybe it's where it's at, maybe it's the shoulders. Oh, they know to fix it. So they know, what areas that they're going to focus on to make magic hand right. So starting that from here, we start from here. We always do one hand at a time. So the first thing I teach them from here is once they understand this position, is to use the body as your guide. Sliding the hand across, what I call Ray Charles karate. So how do I get from here to here? I have to feel my way. So I press my arm firmly into the body and I let it slide. I want to keep this angle of my arm. I don't want it to drop. I want it to come straight forward. I want to drive my hand with my bicep. This would be the same idea as a rocker arm on a locomotive. This will drive in a straight line, but this is what turns. So I want to drive the rocker arm with this hand come straight and back. So this is taught on a 2 count. 1, to make sure it's in that line, look at the alignment of my arm, and back. And you'll notice as I punch, my hand stays the same height. It doesn't vary up and down. You're not going to see it drop. I want to maintain this. Now, how do we check this? We have someone stand behind you, put your hand on your shoulder, and the other hand they grab your bicep. If you try to push your hand forward, you'll fail. But if you focus on the elbow and the bicep, you'll be able to push that arm forward. Secondly, if you try to just push the hand, your chest doesn't activate. This motion is the same as if you're doing a bench press. So if I'm doing a bench press, the first thing I do is I compress the chest, contract the muscles, then I press. Coming down, I tighten the back and press. Tighten in, back, tighten in. So again here, we follow the same process that we know through sports medicine is the proper way to do this motion. So again, we're not working a punch. We're not working uraski, short punch. We're working this motion. I want to develop this area. This is going to apply to every technique that I do with my hand. So if I learn this now, it's going to be there, and you'll have that consistent reminder. If I tell you, check your, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So again, sliding it forward, sliding it in and back. Now, at the same time, we're going to go back and have them check it again. Have them put their hand against the back of your shoulder and hold your arm. Now, without pushing your hand into your body, just try to push it up, and you'll notice this will happen. Now, if you take and push your arm tightly into your body and then push it, you'll succeed. Well, this motion and this idea already begins to help you for your kata sanchin and tensho. So again, we're not just learning how to do a punch, but we've already elevated that student up to katas 2 or 3 belts higher than that. That's the true nature of what our teaching should be. So we want to prepare them for everything. We don't want to have to come back in a year and teach them how to do this technique correct. So again, we're not teaching them the technique. We're teaching them the correct motion to be able to use this. Now, how do I use that in a self-defense situation? Person's grab me from behind in a bear hug. So have them do that and grab them around your elbows. Try to push your hands forward. Now, slide your arm around your body. If you try to push your arms forward, they'll be able to hold you back and you won't be able to extend your arms. If you roll your arms forward, they can't stop that. So now if the person's grabbing me, they may not lose their grip, but they can't push back and suffocate me, control my breathing. So again, if you're here, just try to push your arms forward. You can do it in this position or this position, and just roll the arms forward. Well, again, you'll be able to, they're going to understand that they can succeed. One doesn't work, one does. So in their mind, they know what works and what doesn't work. And all this goes back to this short punch. So again, we're using this punch, the motion of the punch, to make sure the shoulder stays down, elbows in its right position. So remember, we took the body and we were protecting the center line. So now I'm going to take my body and my chest and I'm going to further divide it. This is the starting point for all my punches and blocks. Even if I'm fighting, that's where I'm in that line. Boom, that's where I'm going to be. My kicks would come up in the same fashion, not outside. It's going to come inside and come inside that box. So again, from here, and only do one hand, so that way they have a better ability to focus. Out, that's 1, that's 2. 1, that's 2. And again, they do it on their own. But more importantly, if I've done this 10 times, I'm going to do it 20, 30 times against an opponent, against different, either holding them back or pulling. Then we do the second hand, and then we'll do both. Doing both. Doing both. And you'll notice again, my hands stay level and together. They're not raising and lowering. Same idea, same motion, but this time we're going to take the punch and raise it here, chin level, like Agaski rising punch. Now again, this can be a punch, but this can also here, if you were punching, I might use that to block a technique. I might be using this part of my arm, if I had grabbed your arm, to strike your arm with. So we would see this in, say, kata seiunchin, where I come up. So instead of this being a punch, I've got your arm, I'm coming underneath, and I'm hitting your arm. Extended, boom. So I can use this as well, not just this. So any part of my arm, my bicep, my forearm, this part of my forearm, this part of my forearm, the hand can become weapons. So I have multi-use. It's almost like the idea of a Swiss Army knife for a single punch. Now, once I understand this, the other thing that I do now is work this elbow in different distances from my body, and I push. If it's too close in, I'm going to be able to push the hand in. If it's too far out, I'll be able to push it in, push it down, push it to the side. So another way you can trick this with your partner is put your hand next to your body and then put your elbow on it. Have them try to push side to side, up and down, and they'll be able to manipulate your arm. Take your hand, put it underneath your underarm, and let your arm rest on it. Remove that, and then have them try. That's where these muscles connect together. So you have, once we learn that, they'll be able to go back, know how to check it out. So again, as we're doing these punches, you're going to have a partner. And it's almost like doing San Chin training. As you do that punch, they're going to come over here and check it. And that's going to help them understand. The biggest thing they get out of it is the sensation of feeling. So it's not just, am I doing it right? I know it's doing it right because I can repeat that feeling. I know that's right because I can feel it. It's there. Oh, yes, it's working. That builds a level of confidence in the student. So again, 1, 2, or 1, 2. The nice thing about this punch, I don't lose this angle. This has set my angle for my middle block or my Toraguchi. So any of these blocks, it sets that. So I have dual purpose, not just to teach a technique, but to teach how to properly do the technique, how to use it, and how to set that form. So that the posture, the support, everything is in proper. Then we go to the straight punch. Now, I don't teach the straight punch from here. We've already worked this. So I'm going to start with the straight punch from here. And then from here, the way we get the students to rationalize this and figure it out is have someone grab their wrist from the front and then try to pull their hand back. And if the arm goes straight back, it's going to pull you off balance. The person's not going to have the strength to pull. Now, if they take the bicep, roll that elbow in. Remember how we divided that body into thirds? I'm going to bring that arm back in here. So if they grab your hand, they won't be able to stop that. Now, what's important to understand that this much must rotate as a single unit. If you grab your wrist and try to rotate your hand, these bones, you're stopping those bones from crossing over. But if you roll the whole arm, a person cannot stop that. This is easy to stop. There's not enough grip there. Here, by doing this, now you're activating your lats, your back, your chest, your delt. You have a whole system that's you're using to make this work. This is not performed by the hand, by the arm. It's performed by the body. So again, what are we doing? We just learned Sanchin Kata. So if I'm here and I grab, I'm in Sanchin Kata. So again, we're taking that training from the beginning. It's intended to help them here. not just to teach them some techniques down here. It's intended to get them to this level and beyond. And we begin to show them, this is not just for you today. If you learn this today, in 6 months, I won't have to teach it to you again. I can teach you more. We can progress faster. And it's very easy to tell if my students are training because they're not getting it. It's not becoming part of their physical language. So once you've done that, you'll be able to bring this hand in. Now, put the hand in this position and try to have them pull it back, still holding the arm in this way, and try to pull straight back. And again, you'll fail. But if you bring that arm into the body and then keep it tight, you'll be able to function this movement all the way through. Do the exact opposite. Have them stand behind you, grab your bicep, and try to push their hand straight forward. And as you do this, his arm's going to come away. But if you push that elbow in so that the elbow stays behind the technique, they can't stop you from doing this. So again, that becomes important when somebody grabs you. That's how I'm going to get out of my technique. So if I come in here and I push away, then this becomes how I get movement out of my technique. So this becomes my high block. So I can use a high block or the motion of a high block to get out of a back bear hug. That's more effective than thinking, somebody's going to come hit me over the head and I'm going to block like this. I haven't seen anybody effectively do that in any MMA or UFC or any real fight. But now we have real-time application. The student respects and has confidence in that. Now, the other application for this is you have somebody stand out in front, you grab their wrist in this fashion. And your job is to rotate to turn it over to this position. If you try to turn the hand, you see what happens to my hand, how it rolls out. Well, I can't, again, I'm not going to be able to turn them because this is what I'm affecting on them. I'm grabbing their wrist, but this is what I'm trying to manipulate. So over here, what do? I rotate this in. And their success rate is going to go from 0 to 50 to 60, depending on their strength and their size. It works great for kids. So again, you reach out here. What do? You grab two hands and you pull out. It could be this way. You could be doing this technique, like a goju-ryu. Reach over. That's the same position of my hand, you see? So this doesn't have to be a fist. My fist, in my mind, represents grabbing. But if I reach out and grab, and then I pull out, I'd be in a fist. So when I'm doing this, I'm reaching over and then doing that technique, doing the goju-ryu. Boom. So again, here I got. So I'm not just learning how to punch. In one technique, I taught them the right way to do it, proper body mechanics, proper structuring, and how to use this in a real-time event. Somebody's reached up here and grabbed my neck, or they're choking me, they're grabbing my lapel. I do my kata. And we'll work that technique from various grabs. This one-handed grab, two-handed grab, lapel grab, all kinds of different ways. They grab me from behind, I do my technique. Now if I step back and raise this hand up, now I've got my arm, I've got my release. So again, the intent is one, I learned this 1 or 3 techniques, and that's the basics for everything. Once I understand this collapsing, I understand the collapsing for this technique, this technique, this technique, this technique. So this is key. If I teach them this, all I have to teach them is the other side of it. But what they do is this is what they focus on. So we might work on this first 2 or 3 classes because there's so much and so many different ways to practice it versus just standing there doing 100 of these. So if we're going to work this punch, it's going to be 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. And then, but always focusing on this concept. And then same thing here. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Boom. And again, by themselves and people grabbing them. And then again, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And if you watch, the height of this hand and this hand remains the same. And what I'm not doing is I'm not rolling out. Now, years ago when I first got into the pressure point fighting, there was this big hoopla of which was the most effective. Vertical punch, 3/4 punch, or the full twist punch. Well, the negative side of that was this was a punch. One single intent. It's a punch. You're hitting with this part of your hand, right? Maybe those two knuckles. Now, this full twist is extremely important. This is the next training aspect of this technique, is that preventive training. I don't want the elbow going out. As soon as that elbow goes out, it raises my shoulder. I'm back to that idea of body mapping. So as soon as this happened, all my weight's going over here. So I already know where the weaknesses are going to come before the person ever attacks. So again, we take this. The idea is we want to keep the elbow in. Now, I'm going to take my finger, put it on the point of my elbow. And then as I twist, I'm going to use this twist to teach me not to roll my elbow out. So I'm not just teaching it to strike with, but I'm using this twisting motion to teach myself to keep my elbow down. So I'm not rolling it out. So it has to be a conscious effort to train that out. So once I punch, my elbow stays down. And again, where are we at? We're right back to my San Chin training. Makes sense. Great. Now, once all that's understood, you understand why you're training. So for me, when I'm testing my students for promotion, yes, I want to see this punch. But more importantly is I want to see it done. I want to see by count, because I want to check that their shoulders are not rolling up, their elbows not coming out, they're not dropping their hands in the right position, and this collapsing. Okay, now to work the collapse, instead of grabbing here and try to pull out, put your hand on top and try to roll, pull this in. With my kids, I teach them Finding Nemo, the seagulls, mine. So if I'm punching, this is mine. Boom. So instead of pulling back, it's here. Now, what are two benefits of that? One, I'm using the muscles that they're designed to be used in this instance. Secondly, look at my elbow compared to here. This means my punch is traveling twice the distance that it is from here. So distance means time. If time, shorter time coming back, shorter time going out. Boom, shorter time versus this. And again, what has it done to my structure? That's the base of our punching. Everything else. So again, I'm not teaching punches. I don't have 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 block punches that I teach. I only teach 3. Each one is designed to teach something specific that's going to aid the students in their preventive teaching, their preventive practice, and application, their connective application. Whether it be, how do I use this in a self-defense, or how is this connected to this technique? It doesn't change. The more, and it becomes positive. So try those. The next tape, we're going to get into our blocking techniques and our other strikes, our hurakunuchi and our shutouchi, our chops, because they deliver a little bit different than these techniques. But at the same time, we're going to make sure that they connect preventive-wise and application-wise. Again, thank you for your time. I hope you found this educational and inspiring. See you on the next videos.